Hello people, it's your third favorite VCS analyst here, Clockwork again, with another episode, the third one of Clockwise. And we are in for a quite good week, not the next one, but the previous one. Actually the opposite. There weren't that many interesting matches. But as usual, let's start from the LPL with some news. So this will be the last week of play before the Chinese New Year break, which means 2 weeks off from the competition. So the games will restart on February the 22nd. So there will be a long time, and after that, the teams will probably start competing very seriously. Some teams haven't picked up their steam yet, so I am expecting much better performances from them on. One more thing, since the COVID restrictions are still up for the LPL, most teams will stay in their gaming houses. They will not travel back home, with the one exception of Shanks, the mid laner for WE, that needed to go home for family issues. So next week, WE will play with Yimeng, their sub. I am already panicking, but let's move on to the Rift. What happens in the Rift? The LPL has seen a surge in Udyr plays, and they hate it. It's terrible. It has a ridiculous win rate, and most teams can't make it work because it needs a lot of setup from his lanes. He needs winning lanes, otherwise he gets easily invaded and from enemies, from enemy jungler, early jungler like Olaf or Pantheon that have quite good early game. With lane assistance, they can outfight Udyr and make it useless. So still, there is some difficulty in incorporating Udyr into play. As for the teams, we have seen the standings finally move up a bit. Some teams that we are deeming good are rising, especially FunPlus Phoenix and Leaning Esports. Bo and Tarzan, the two junglers, are performing at a stellar level, especially this last week. These are two teams that are coming up high, and I think they're gonna rack up some more wins, maybe even end in the top 4. As the split goes on. And indeed, the surprisingly good team of the week was Leaning, in my opinion. Tarzan showed up very well, Light is improving, and Iwandi, the rookie support, is coming up with some lit plays, and I think Icon is playing much better than he used to play in OMG. So overall, this is coming up as a really good team that can contest for the top. It's a dark horse, of course. I don't think they're favored to win the title, but still, keep an eye on them. You probably already are because they're stars and playing, and he's a fan favorite. Surprisingly bad. I'm sorry, but this is WE. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a fan of them, and I was disappointed by their showing against Royal, but I don't know. There was a lot more that I expected from them, especially from the draft. They went for something very unusual that I don't think fit their style very much. Missing and Beishang were quite absent. Beishang was another one of the Udyr players that didn't manage to make it work at all. I'm sorry, Beishang, go back to Graves, please. And yeah, they will be a bit of debuffed next week because of Yimeng playing. They have an easy match against Rare Items and versus JDG, so might still work. But still, I want them to show something better for the next weeks of play. I think they have a lot to learn from their mistakes against Royal. That said, let's move on to the VCS standings. This week was the last one from GG Esports. So when I said the VCS was the only COVID-free league, well, Kolkata, as usual, they will start moving online because of 100 cases registered in Vietnam last week. So also, they will have one more week of play before TET. I don't know what it stands for, but it's basically the same festivity, but for the Vietnamese culture. So they too will have a pause. What last week taught us is that GAM is still the top dog. Not even SPTC can compare. And even if their style is not perfect yet, style, they already carry, is very good, but their style as a team is still not perfect. They sometimes force some early game plays that are off tempo, and especially Buffalo showed that they can play around them, but the individual difference between their players and everyone else is too big, and their style can't be punished. To the point that Style and Bie can also be considered the best bot lane in the league at the moment, despite everyone considering them as bad at the beginning of the split. And there are also Celebrity and Hugh having good performances as AD carry and bot lane, but they're in different teams. So best bot lane so far, my money is on Gam. Surprisingly bad are Flash and Secret, which everyone last split they were at the top of the standings. Flash won 2 splits again, but despite having both of them around top 4 for this split as well, they are at the rock bottom of the standings. 0 wins and 3 losses are very painful for both of them, especially for Slater, one of the top dogs of the VCS. He is still winless at the moment. But surprisingly good, we have Cerberus, which despite the revolving door of their team, Ego still can play in the jungle, and Ronopi has been subbed out for Hugh. They are finding their own equilibrium. They managed to make it work, and they are surprising. They are at 3-1, higher up in the standings, and the first Korean import of the league is joining them. It's Pose in the top lane that will substitute Pun. So keep an eye on Cerberus, because after SBTC falling, I expect Cerberus to be the one to at least try and compete with Gam. Let's move on to which series you should catch up from last week. Unfortunately, I don't think there are many exceptional series. There were a lot of series that I was hyping up, especially like GAM versus SBTC, but also IG versus FPX and TES against JDG. They all disappointed. The most disappointing was W versus Royal. It was a terrible series, not only because we lost, but it was impressive. Therefore, I will advise some other series to catch up, especially if you want to understand how Royal is so good. You should watch Royal against V5. Xiaohu really showing up in the top lane. He is probably one of the best top laners in China at the moment, which is, well, definitely unexpected considering he just role swapped. Then V5 in that match really challenged Royal in every aspect, so it was a very close match and very competitive. We have also TT versus V5. This was like an incredible fiesta, and it was very unexpected because TT unexpectedly defeated V5, racking up their first win of the split. So this is a coming up moment for TT. Let's give some shout out to the underdogs, and let's rewatch this game because it was incredible. Last one was IG versus FPX. I think that Bo is really showing up. He has been already integrated close to perfection, well, hot take, but still integrated very well into the team and cooperates with Doimbi very well, and it shows a lot in the series against IG. The huge difference in teamwork between Bo and Doimbi on one side and Shun and Rookie on the other side. Go watch it yourself. Bo and Doimbi are already like siblings. That's very surprising. FPX can go a long distance if they keep playing like this. Series to watch next week. There's a lot coming up, especially because it's last week of play. Let's say it again. We have FPX against LNG, so it's Bo versus Tarzan, two of the hottest junglers at this moment. Don't miss it. Then we have JDG versus WE. JDG are still turbo bad, but also WE are debuffed without their mid laner, so everything can happen. Keep an eye on that series. FPX are playing against TES as well. TES are finally coming up. They are starting to win again, and they look more confident in their win. They are not perfect yet. They are not at the level of spring and summer. They still have something to work on, but they are coming up, and this match against FPX might be the beginning of their comeback. As for VCS, they have all one-sided matches next week. So what I'm going to do is advise probably the worst series, because I don't think that I can predict an upset among the other series. So I'm gonna go and tell you to watch BDS against Flash. They are probably two of the worst teams at the moment, and this series will be a total banger. Like, just do not complain, just watch it. That's all for this week. Remember to comment and say if you had anything else to say, especially some games to watch, some series that you want to watch. And for the next week, since there will be no matches being played, I think I will do a special episode, power ranking the team, both LPL and VCS. So stay tuned for that. Tell me if you're interested, and see you next week.